I've called you all together because I have learned some very important information about how we are so awesome.
Interesting.
Yes. We've all chosen to live in the best, I don't know, city? Is it county? Whatever. Wherever it is, we are the best place in the world.
The best area.
We are the best city in the world. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah. Area is kind of vague. It's definitely Raleigh. So basically what I'm telling you is we're awesome. And we need to make sure we maintain this awesomeness.
And if I get what you're saying, if we're the best city in the best country in the world, that means we are the best city in the world.
Yeah, pretty much.
Is that not too much?
There's like a transitive nature of like math or something.
Okay.
And that is like logic.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So pretty much, and as far as we know, we're the best planet in the universe. So
it just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah. So we got to have a radio show about this. And that's why you're all here.
Excellent. I can't wait to discuss it. What about you, Fred?
Don't forget Carrie.
What about Carrie?
Carrie, it's made up of all the Yankees.
I was hoping we wouldn't have to go into that. But...
Central area for relocating Yankees.
I have to put a term containment area.
Okay.
They all got to stay there.
Yes.
The best thing about Cary is all the roads are kind of in that circle. So you get people stuck on Manor Road, and they just get stuck there. You don't have to worry about them infiltrating Raleigh or Durham, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's pretty much right. It's like a vortex. They just get stuck on Maynard. And then if they do happen to get outside that original perimeter, there's Cary Parkway, big circle.
Yep. Lots of ways to keep them in there.
And then there's the armed guards.
Yeah. Well, there's the armed guards, and then you've got 440 and 540, which are like, they have to get out of the Cary area and then try and get into the Raleigh area.
It's really like 4 layers of protection.
Yeah.
I like that.
Always gotta have 4 layers. Basically, the way I figure it is, since we do live in the best area, everyone's gonna want to know what's going on here.
I think so, too.
Yeah, I mean, like, we put this podcast, and everyone's gonna want to know how they can be, like, sort of almost as good as us, but not quite as good as us.
And the best thing about being the best city in the, apparently the galaxy, is that you want to also attract the best people to Raleigh.
Right.
So the more we can do that, the more better we'll keep becoming and staying at that top. We don't want to go down again.
Yeah.
I was number 3 for several years. I don't like that.
What were you number 3 in? What city was that?
That was Raleigh several years ago. Before I moved here. And I think before you moved here, too.
That's a good point. We need to really kind of have an award for people who are keeping Raleigh the most Raleighite, you know?
Agreed.
I mean...
Yeah. First whoever made that name should get an award.
That's true. That's true. And secondly, we need to find out which people we need to somehow prohibit from leaving so that we can always be awesome. Even if we ourselves are not, they can be keeping it awesome for us.
They can keep the bar high.
Yeah, exactly. Or at least not raise the bar anywhere else.
Yes, exactly. Because I heard Nashville was trying to court Clay Aiken. And I don't know about you, but I'm not going to let that happen.
I don't know. He just got voted off of, like, Raleigh Island or whatever North Carolina idol that we just had last week. So
Are you talking about an election?
Yeah, those things. Those happen here, too. So
There's always next time.
Yeah, but I mean, in the next 2 years, he might go get picked up by some other reality TV show, and then he might lose it.
I'm just saying, I'm going to do my best to make sure that doesn't happen.
That's true.
That's what I'm saying.
Now, the article, by the way, we should probably, for our audience, point out why we have such firm belief in our awesomeness.
As if you don't know already. But
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't already apparent to people who, like, pay attention.
Or I've never been here before, which I can understand. You can't just be to every city in the world, you know.
Oh, I mean, everybody's been to Raleigh. It's been the backdrop of so many famous movies, like Sleepless in Raleigh and...
Return of the Raleigh.
Yeah, and what was another thing that we've done with movies lately, or in the last ever?
I'm not sure, but I'll have to add those to my queue, because I haven't seen them yet.
Yeah, definitely add those to the queue. But, like, Raleigh and North Carolina in general, definitely well known for being a backdrop for movies. You were going to say something about that, I thought.
Yes. So this is a story. This is not about Raleigh in particular. It's about a lesser city called Wilmington. Do you have a few minutes for this?
Yeah.
Just a couple minutes.
We got as long as we want, man.
So,
We're in Raleigh. We have both electricity and Wi-Fi that is practically unlimited, so...
It's probably the best anyways.
Yeah.
Okay.
And all the time in the world.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to remember this book, and if I can't think of it while I'm thinking about this story, I'll bring it for the next episode. But moral of the story was I was reading this book in 5th or 6th grade, and we had to do an essay about the book and the movie, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, I wrote about how the movie switched locations, okay? The book took place in a city and then in the mountains, okay? The movie took place in a city and then on the beaches, okay? And our English teacher's assignment was, why do you think the filmmakers made that switch? You know, what thematic elements did they want to convey? So I said, you know, it was a pretty low-budget PBS documentary-type movie. They didn't obviously hire any actors. They had, like, everything on location. I assume they just turned their camera around to face the ocean for the second half of the movie, okay? And I had a whole essay about it. I got a C on that because my teacher thought I was being an asshole. And I'm like, no, it's like that's what happened. So years later, when IMDb came out, I looked up the movie and guess where it was shot?
That's right.
So it was shot in Screen Gem. The first part of the movie was camera facing this way towards Wilmington. They turned it around. They had the beach in the background.
Wow.
That's how it happened. And the reason was they had a low budget.
I'm really fascinated by that. I thought you were going to be talking about one of the other great film history elements of North Carolina, which was the killing of the son of Bruce Lee, who was Brandon Lee, in The Crow, which happened in Wilmington. Another good example of a list of people that we need to not let leave North Carolina lest they make other places cooler than us. So
I agree.
Yeah.
I was also a little perturbed that the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie was not shot at the location in Screen Gem. That's where it was shot originally.
Really?
Yep.
Really? So like the old school one where they got like the real animatronic
first live action. Yep. They had sets built in Screen Gems. But see Wilmington in the background.
We're getting a little field here from the awesomeness that is Raleigh. I mean, I think we need to be, now that we are number one as the best place to live, we need to really make sure that filmmakers make the iconic Raleigh skyline a feature of multiple films.
I've had several of my friends who visited me because they all want to check out the best city, right? So the past year, every couple weekends, I'll have somebody say, hey, I need to come visit.
Yeah.
And it's not even a question of, like, they want to. Like, they book their tickets. They just need a place to stay. So, as we're driving into Raleigh from the south on, forget the name of that street. Saunders Road. You kind of, like, take that corner where it's all trees, and then you see, like, the skyline in front of you.
Exactly.
That's an excellent shot for the opening of a movie.
Except for the fact that the entire Raleigh skyline can be obscured by one tree. I mean, that's pretty much the only place. So, basically, we need to cut that tree down, is what I'm thinking.
I still like the epicness of it being hidden and kind of, like, sloping upwards to the city on the partial hill.
Yeah.
Headed down south to the land of the pines. I'm thumbing my way to North Carolina, staring up the road and pray to God I see headlights. I made it down the coast in 17 hours, picking me a bouquet of dogwood flowers, and I'm hoping for Raleigh I can see my baby tonight. So rock me, mama, like a wagon wheel. Rock me, mama, any way you feel. Hey, mama, rock me. Rock me, mama, like the wind and the rain. Rock me, mama, like a southbound train. Hey.
So, Fred, do you have anything to point out about Raleigh being so awesome?
I don't know what you're talking about.
See, that's good. See, yeah.
Well, I went to school here, so
Yeah.
I'm Raleigh taught.
Raleigh taught?
Yes, Raleigh
Okay.
educated,
All right.
learned.
Which of the like 10 schools that you could possibly be affiliated with? Did you go
North
to?
Carolina State University.
Sure, it wasn't Peace or Meredith.
I think you went to Meredith. It's an all-girls school.
No, I went to CSU, but not our.
Yeah,
CSU.
you went to Colorado State where all they do is smoke pot.
Let's just call it.
Smell
No,
bad.
that would be CU. Those people are dirty hippies. We were not part of that.
But to be perfectly honest, now that Colorado, Washington, D.C., Washington State, they all pass those marijuana laws, that might eat into our greatness if Raleigh doesn't get on the ball
Oh
with that.
man, they just they need to have something so that they can soothe their nerves that they're not number one. That's basically what it is.
Yeah, that's true.
We're going to stay focused.
We don't need that, but it would be nice to have.
And you know what? Honestly, North Carolina, we don't really need another, narcotic smoke-related...
Even the hookah lounge is enough?
Yeah, no, we've got tobacco trail. We've got, the history, the granddaddy of major crops that are for screwing up your lungs. And
that's true. I didn't even smoke before I came here, but because it's such a part of the culture.
Yeah. So
those lucky strikes.
Philip Morris has been pushing that for years. So.
Yep.
Yes, in a cigarette, it's the tobacco that counts. And Lucky Strike means fine tobacco. So round, so firm, so fully packed, so free and easy on the draw. So for your own real deep down smoking enjoyment, smoke that smoke of fine tobacco, Lucky Strike.
It's obvious that Raleigh is number one. It comes as no surprise, as they say here in the article, Bloomberg Business Week. One thing, though, I'm a little concerned about is they keep pointing out that we're better but not bigger. And that kind of makes me a little,
As if being bigger means being better.
Obviously.
It's the motion of the ocean.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I'm unfamiliar with that cliche.
Yeah.
I think I heard the ladies' man say it once.
Not familiar.
Yeah, I'm going to go with bigger is better because
you're bigger.
Yeah.
Literally, like a fat tub of lard.
Yeah.
But that's the nice thing about Raleigh. We're the best because we don't have as much traffic as Los Angeles, New York, Boston.
What are you talking about? Okay, so you can back me up on this.
Let me just, for the listeners, I do work from home, so I'm not familiar with the traffic, but for me, traffic is non-existent, so.
Yeah, traffic in Raleigh basically is, for about an hour a day in certain locations, it's worse than anywhere else on the planet. And then there's nothing else to do the rest of the time.
Have you been everywhere else on the planet?
Okay, a lot of places. I've been a fair number of places.
I try to travel to the top 5 from Business Week each year, just to make sure that we're not falling behind.
Okay.
So I want to make sure I check out those other places and say, hey, if they have something cool or that's better, we got to get that next year so we keep up that ranking.
Well, we'll get back to traffic, but the point I wanted to say here is that, LA, which obviously traffic central, no surprise, they're like 53rd on this list. Chicago is 75th. New York is 14th. So clearly, traffic is one of those issues we're going to have to keep in check. And if you get on, some of one, as you're getting on 540 or rather on 440, it can be a little tricky around here. But this gets to my point about size. They're talking about it. Basically, we're not really the ultimate champions just yet because San Diego, California is the number one city over 1 million in population.
How many people live here now?
400,000. So what I'm thinking is they're kind of like the heavyweight champion of the world and we're kind of like the middleweight. So we need to get a lot more people here to Raleigh and figure out ways they can get here cheaply and find housing and find a place to live and find somebody they can have sex with and make more people so that as soon as possible we can be the number one city in America, therefore the world, therefore the universe, bigger than San Diego, or at least over 1 million, so we can be in that heavyweight category. So we still do have just a teeny bit of room to grow into on this.
Okay.
So this is going to be a long project. I think it might take a lot of,
this. I'm down for decades.
Yeah, babies is good. I was going to say drinking beers around the table and figuring this shit out. And also lording it over the other people because they pointed out that the lowest ranked cities on this list were Detroit, obviously, which I find funny because they just say the 100, literally word for it says at the bottom of this ranking of 100 cities were Detroit, Stockton, California, Akron, Ohio, Laredo, Texas, and Cleveland. It's like Detroit and Cleveland are so sucky. You don't have to tell people which state they're in. It's kind of like, yes, they're in, the fourth circle.
In case you forgot.
Actually, you know what? I don't think that it is. I think that it's so awful. What state is Detroit in? It's like Michigan, right?
I thought so.
Yeah. And Cleveland, it's like they're so awful that no state really wants to own them.
Funny story. I actually flew to Cleveland. No, actually, was it Cleveland or that was worse, or Cincinnati?
Oh, they didn't. They're so lowly ranked.
But
They're
all tied.
Which one
right?
They're all kind of like tied at the bottom. It's Detroit, Stockton, Akron, Laredo, and Cleveland. Are
So
all.
I was in Cleveland about 2 weeks ago for a job interview.
Yeah.
I was telling about Raleigh, and pretty much the entire duration of the interview was how good Raleigh is.
Yeah.
So now they're opening an office in Raleigh, and several people from that office are moving down here.
Okay, so that's good because that means like you're bringing more people here.
Yeah.
But I'm a little worried because you're gonna get these crappy Cleveland. Whatever is Cleveland is doing, we need to keep the fuck out of our city.
All right.
So I didn't.
Wait, hold on a second. I'll make sure they move to Durham.
No, that's true. We do have Durham on our favor here. Like
Yeah.
we can kind of like shove them off over to Durham and then keep all the good parts for ourselves.
Exactly.
Right now at noon, the preliminary test results are in, and a patient being held in North Carolina for potential Ebola does not have the deadly virus. However, health officials say the person will be kept at Duke University Hospital in Durham for a few more days.
Well, I think this is pretty awesome that we're awesome. And
I think so too.
We got to keep this going.
Chances are we'll just get more awesomer, so
Yeah.
it's a good start.
Well, no, we're not going to just get more awesomer. We're going to get most awesomest.
There we go.
That's
I
the goal.
like that positivity.
Yeah, that's the goal right there. All right, well, that's Raleighites for this week. 3 people on the credits, Daniel, Fred, and Jeff, as well as Bobby, who's working all the phones and the technical stuff. He was stuck in Stockton this week, so he wouldn't be with us.
That's
but,
unfortunate. Hopefully he'll return.
Yeah, maybe he'll have some good stories, and hopefully gets out from whatever, let's say, necrotizing fasciitis is going on in that city because it's such an awful place.
Hey, it's better than Ebola.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. So, until next week, this is Raleighites, Daniel.
Fred.
And Jeff. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.